Welcome back. David Quigley here. Today we're going to talk about cancer. Well, it turns out cancer is an extremely important topic in today's world. Cancer has now become the leading cause of death for people from 25 to 85 years old in America today. Cancer affects millions and millions of people in America today. And it's estimated that over 1 million die every year from this disease, or this collection of diseases. And I'm sorry to say, in spite of almost 50 years of a war on cancer being fought by the government and the pharmaceutical industry and medical science, we haven't really made very much progress. I'd have to say this about some cancers. We've been like Hodgkin's lymphoma. We've been able to conquer pretty successfully with chemotherapy. The vast years and billions of dollars spent on researching cancer cures has not brought us much closer to a solution. And a recent cancer researcher described, after doing a mega study of many different types of cancer treatments over the last 50 years, has estimated that we have lengthened the survival of a typical cancer patient in this country by only about 9 months after 50 years of research and treatment. A 9-month extension of life after 50 years and billions of dollars thrown at this problem? It's hard for me to call that a success. So the question then becomes, what's wrong? Why isn't it working? Why aren't they? We solved smallpox. We solved AIDS amazingly quickly. Medical science has performed miracles with tuberculosis, any number of diseases. Why can't cancer respond to any of these? Well, the doctors would like to tell you there's something different or more dangerous about cancer. It's just not true. Well, I have so many cancer patients who've had wonderful results in my work. And what they hear from their cancer doctor is always the same. This is an inherited disease. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just the genes you were stuck with, and so that's what's going to happen to you. Well, I'll be blunt, that's just a lie. That just isn't true. Let me explain, because I'm a geneticist. Let me explain this to you. When 100 years ago we find out that in this country cancer is an extremely rare disease, killing, I'll be estimating, no more than 1 in 1,000 or maybe 1 in 100 people. Very rare disease in this country, and in other parts of the world, a very rare disease. Suddenly, within 100 years, it shoots up to be the leading killer of Americans. That's not the pattern of a genetic disease. There is no genetic disease that shows that kind of statistical probability. We also know that when people live in primitive cultures, places like China, Japan, Malaysia, who have a very, very low incidence of cancer in these countries and among these communities, when these people adopt a Western diet, as they often do as civilization spreads, or they come to America and adopt a Western diet, their cancer rates very quickly match those of the rest of us Americans living in this country. So that's not a genetic disease pattern. No, the person who has some kind of genetic resistance because they live in Malaysia doesn't suddenly lose that genetic resistance when they move to the United States. So we know that genetics have very little to do with cancer, in fact. So then we have to say, well, since oncologists are basically barking up the wrong tree, if they're choosing to live and preach a lie about cancer, that could possibly explain why they're not getting decent results in treating cancer. That's why it's so difficult to treat cancer, because they have the wrong model of what cancer's causes are. However, other researchers, including many medical doctors in the field of cancer research, are discovering something entirely different. But you're not allowed to know that, because the pharmaceutical industry the meat and dairy industry don't want you to know what the real cause or cure for cancer is. So if you want to be a good American citizen, I recommend that you turn off this video right now, burn this story off of your computer's hard drive, and never look at it again. And then when cancer comes for you, take the toxic chemicals that the doctors are claiming is the cure. However, if you have not yet turned off the video, let's go on. The fact is that for many, many years, scientists have known that that the major causes of cancer are in the diet and the lifestyle that we live. There's a book called The China Study by Campbell, as in Campbell Soup. There's also another book, Anti-Cancer, written by a former physician, neuroscientist, and surgeon who is now free of cancer himself because of discovering these truths, that cancer is a direct result of diet. Now that partly includes toxic chemicals that are scattered all over our country and being produced in the millions of tons every year. These toxic chemicals, and there's a long list of them: pesticides, herbicides, fire retardants, artificial drugs and chemicals and food colorings and preservatives. And many of these chemicals have been found in very small amounts to be carcinogenic. And by the time you add them to each other, layer after layer, in a body becoming increasingly toxic, now that's a major cause of cancer. So you can eat organic. You can live in a good part of the country. You can stop smoking cigarettes. And you can immediately start reducing your chances of cancer and even helping you reverse cancer. But it turns out that isn't even the most important part of diet. It turns out that cancers cannot grow in the body unless there are certain specific cancer-friendly environments in the body ready to promote cancer. That's right, there's got to be chemicals circulating throughout the body that are what are called inflammatory chemicals that encourage the body to build blood vessels to support these cancerous tumors, encourage the growth and expansion of these chemical tumors, of these cancerous tumors all over the body. Now, how would we create the perfect growth environment for cancer cells in a human being? Well, it's been pretty much determined many years ago what that is. Lots of meat, lots of dairy products, especially meat that's been fed corn, which is high in omega-6 and omega-9 oils and has very little omega-3s, which are anti-cancer, by the way. So corn-fed beef, chickens and pigs raised in ugly, torturous, and chemical-filled environments, which we call agriculture industry. You can see that book, Food Incorporated, if you want to know exactly what I'm talking about. These animals are raised with so little exercise, so little happiness, and so little decent, whole, outdoor, natural food. Instead, they're crammed with chemicals and refined carbohydrates from corn and wheat, not their natural diet. And so by the time, finally, after many years of being raised this way, these pigs, these cows, these chickens are going to be crawling with cancerous tumors, their joints locked up with arthritic pain, their arteries and veins clogged up by arteriosclerosis from the diet. Oh, I'm sorry, they're not going to get those diseases. No, they're not. They're going to be killed in their prime and fed to you. So you get to have those diseases. The cancerous tumors that are cut off in the body of a pig get to grow inside of you, especially when that pig has been given growth hormones, which are specifically designed to increase the size, the weight of these animals. But you can't go around giving growth hormones and expansion hormones to animals and eating these animals every day and expect anything else except obesity and cancer. Now, the pharmaceutical industry doesn't want you to know this. They've got some drugs to sell, and the pharmaceutical industry is the richest industry in the world, and their profits are the highest in the world. So they don't really want you to know this. They want you to get your proper treatments, standard of care, multi-million-dollar toxic chemicals they've developed, which sometimes work and sometimes don't, but always cost a fortune. Meanwhile, they don't want you to know that it's our massive addiction to meat products and dairy products. Remember, the cows are also fed growth hormone to make more milk happen. And we know that the growth hormone within milk produces insulin growth factor, IGF, which is a major carcinogenic substance that floats through all of our bodies if we're eating dairy products, if we're eating meat. These growth factors are built into the way that meat is grown for America. One expert even said he could not create a dietary plan to produce cancer that would be more effective than the American diet itself. Meanwhile, researchers have also found that vegetables and fruit contain natural antibodies and natural vitamins and natural detoxification agents and phytonutrients. There's hundreds of thousands of them, in fact, in fresh fruits and vegetables. And if we eat lots of those, raw and cooked, then cancer just doesn't grow. Isn't that interesting? The substances within these such simple things as asparagus, broccoli, Brussels sprouts. The compounds within these vegetables have specific effects to destroy cancer cells, to prevent the body from building arteries and capillaries to feed these cancer cells. Even chemicals within asparagus and broccoli that instruct the cancer cells to kill themselves, to commit apoptosis, which is the way that healthy cells die when they're finished, they're doing their job. All of these are in fruits and vegetables. Well, how many fruits and vegetables do Americans eat every day? Well, research indicates that the average American eats less than one serving of fruits and less than one serving of vegetables every day. Other than, of course, potatoes, potato chips. Maybe if you want to call corn a vegetable, yeah, I guess there's plenty of that out there. What we don't have is the green vegetables, the rich vegetables, the multicolored vegetables that have the antioxidants, the phytonutrients that are essential for fighting cancer. Now, when I work with my cancer patients, one of the first things we do is we go down to the inner healer. And there we ask the inner healer, what diet should my client follow? And it's kind of remarkable. Every single time they give a diet that is what I've just described. Cut back the meat. If not eliminate it, cut it back. Cut back the dairy products. Now, sometimes they'll say eat some grass-fed beef. Sometimes they'll say wild-caught fish. These are actually anti-cancer foods. And also many other vegetables and fruits, and my clients eagerly embrace these new dietary recommendations. And of course, I will recommend the book, The China Study, Anti-Cancer, A New Way of Life. Both of these books collaborated to come up with the perfect anti-cancer diet. But the book, Anti-Cancer, also has a very important point. He says that we need to address the personality factors that are at the root of the cancer epidemic. The so-called cancer personality was first diagnosed back in the 1960s. Early researchers discovered that there were certain personality traits. Most commonly, a person who's unable to express their true feelings, especially their angry or upset feelings. People who have to be nice. People who feel that their lives are helpless and hopeless. People who feel there's no point in living. These are the ones who have cancer. Yeah. And we've even discovered that if we can clear these emotions, if we can find for the client the reason for their cancer, then we can also find a way to eliminate it. Cancer as a Turning Point is a book, a very important book written by a psychologist specializing in cancer patients. Cancer as a Turning Point describes a psychologist working with a vast number of cancer patients. Lawrence Lacron is the name. And he would, as a psychologist, would simply talk to cancer patients. So how are you feeling? What's going on? What kind of dreams? What kind of visions? And many of them, through their discussions with him, would discover an important purpose, a meaning behind their cancer. Oh, well, yeah, I've been a lawyer for 25 years and now I'm dying of cancer, but I always wanted to be a member of a barbershop quartet. I always wanted to be a horse trainer. I always wanted to be a reporter. And suddenly realizing this and then pursuing this new direction, this turning point, their cancer disappears with or without medical treatment. No matter what the doctor's prognosis is. They might have 4-stage prostate cancer, basically a death sentence, and all of a sudden, that cancer starts disappearing. The medical treatments start working because now they have discovered their life purpose. They have cleared the underlying emotional cause that created that cancer. I've also found many times that we go down into the area of a cancerous tumor, we find memories stored there, emotions stored there, traumas gathered there. And if we can clear those traumas, we can immediately start seeing the shrinkage of that tumor. That's just how it works, with or without medical treatment. Medical treatment, by the way, can be very helpful. But my belief is that medical treatment without addressing these underlying causes is going to be far less likely to be effective. Your doctors will readily confirm that. They say, yes, we're going to give you this treatment, but you'll probably be back here in 5 years. You'll be lucky if you're not dead in 10. Well, the reason may have nothing to do with the effectiveness of the therapy. It may be that they simply aren't going deep enough into the underlying psychological cause, and they certainly aren't addressing the dietary realities of what causes cancer. Now, my recommendation, if you or someone you love has cancer, you call the Alchemy Institute. Set up some sessions with me or one of the other cancer specialists in our work. Now, there's no point running this by your doctor. They don't believe in what I do. They've got their own standard of care. Most of them are actually forbidden to recommend other forms of therapy. Don't bother to tell your doctor what you're doing. But if your inner healer recommends certain medical procedures, go for it. Medical science has developed some very powerful medicines and treatments for cancer. But I would only pursue them because of their extreme toxicity if it was recommended by the inner healer. And if it is, go for it. And then, as you work with your inner healer, you can also work with a hypnotherapist to clear the underlying emotional and spiritual causes of that cancer. Well, is that going to guarantee that you'll be alive and kicking and healthy 20 years from now? I'm not sure. But I do know that my friend Susan Solovey, who has a practice working with cancer patients in upstate New York, Susan Solovey was diagnosed in the year 2000 with stage 3 ovarian cancer. It was basically a death sentence. Doctors told her to get her affairs in order. Well, she did. She called me. She got in touch with a good alchemist in New York, got to work, started processing it, started getting the diet, started processing the underlying causes, and was receiving chemotherapy on the recommendation of her inner healer. And within a few months, not only had she licked that cancer, but she's been cancer-free now for almost 17 years. 17 years. But there's something even stranger going on. She actually looks younger now than she did 17 years ago. She thanks her cancer every day for teaching her the secrets of youth, health, and vitality. Now, I'm not going to breach protocol and tell you how old she is now, but I can tell you she looks 20 years younger. So if I told you how old she was and then you saw her, you would simply not believe me. That's okay. You can ask her. But in her case, as in my own, conquering a chronic disease has led her to become younger, healthier, and more vital, as well as giving her a stronger and more powerful purpose in life than she had known before. That's my friend Susan Solovay. You can find her information on our website or look her up in Hillsdale, New York, where she has a practice working with cancer patients. So let me summarize by saying, if your doctor has diagnosed you with cancer, yes, you should be worried. You should pay attention. But you should remember, first of all, that the doctor has no real idea on how to heal cancer. Your inner healer does. So going down into trance with a good alchemist to find your inner healer, design your own diet for healing, which will not be the American diet recommended by the beef and cattle and dairy industries. And when you find that new diet and follow it, your inner healer will also, by the way, perform spiritual surgery to literally reduce the cancers in your body day by day. Kind of like John of God, the inner healer moves their hands right into your body, the tumors start shrinking, and boy, is that fun to watch. But also, you'll be addressing and clearing the underlying causes of that cancer within your subconscious mind. So if your doctor says, well, we don't really have a cure for that, we give you some help, but you probably won't make it past about 5 years, you can tell your doctor, I'm not like your other patients. I understand the cause and the cure for cancer, and I'm going to get it fixed with your help or perhaps without it.